Today I'll talk about miscellaneous consumption-related emissions. This is obviously a very broad field, so to narrow things down and put them in boxes, I again used the carbon calculator of the Umweltbundesamt and played around with every setting they offer in this sector.
These settings are spending habits, purchasing criteria, second-hand items, monthly spending, climate-friendly financial investments, and carbon offsetting, i.e. compensation. The German average emission in this sector alone is 3.79 tons per person and year. That's as much as the mobility and nutrition emissions combined. Miscellaneous consumption is the biggest emission factor. It accounts for over a third of the emission total. This, I think, illustrates quite drastically that capitalism, with its idea of perpetual growth, and environmental protection just don't work together. But anyway, let's look at the individual settings. As for the spending habits, you can choose between thrifty, average, and generous. When you're a jazz musician, statistically, you're probably forced to pick thrifty, which may not feel good, but hey, at least it's good for the environment. Purchasing criteria also offers three options: longevity, functionality, and bargain price, of which obviously longevity offers the best results. A musician friend of mine once coined the sentence, "The most expensive ones are the cheapest over time." I believe that is mostly true. As for second-hand items, we jazz musicians like to buy vintage equipment and usually keep and use it for a long period of time, which is good from an environmental perspective. And while we're at it, why not think about second-hand stage outfits? Instruments, bows, or drumsticks made of FSC certified wood, or producing green vinyls. More on that in a later episode. Coming to monthly spending, I guess this excludes all spending on basic needs, so we're just talking about more or less the extras. This is preset at 500 euros per month, and every 50 euros you save here take 0.38 tons off your CO2 related emissions total. The sentence "less is more" doesn't apply to everything, but it certainly holds true here. Now, one thing I like about the Umweltbundesamt emission calculator is that it also takes indirect emissions into account. Of all these indirect emissions, green financial investment may well be the biggest lever. Simply open up a green bank account. In Germany, the go-to banks would be GLS, Triodos, Umweltbank, or Ethikbank. These banks each have their own strong code of conduct and invest only in ecologically and socially sound projects. So simply having that money on your green bank account already helps, because it draws money out of investments that are potentially harmful. For every 100 euros you invest in ecological investments, you save up to 20 kilograms of CO2 related emissions. Doesn't sound much? Let's put it differently. Every 5,000 euros invested in ecological projects save 1 ton of CO2 related emissions. If you're an average German citizen, emission-wise that is, that's already close to 10% of your emission total.
Now, a bank account is one of those things you tend to just have and then forget about, but changing your account to a green bank really helps the environment, plus it's a quick fix, so there's really no reason not to do it straight away. As always, beware of greenwashing, because there's plenty of that around. My advice would be to stick with the green banks I mentioned earlier. Greenwashing brings me to the final point, which is carbon offsetting or compensation. Most of the stuff you buy labeled CO2 neutral nowadays will have taken just as much energy to produce as it has before, but the companies are now paying compensation money because green is such a big trend that they will still be able to profit. Now, of course, it's much better to avoid emissions in the first place, but for the stuff you can't avoid for whatever reason, make sure that you compensate. Atmosphere.com is a good place to start. If you live in Europe, also make sure to check out compensators.org and their approach of buying EU emissions trading certificates, thus removing them from the market. I hope you liked today's episode. Feel free to hit like and subscribe here on YouTube, and also please check out my Patreon page. Thank you for watching.